All right, so dire wolves, extinct for what, like 10,000 years?
Over 10,000, yeah.
Over 10,000 years.
Right.
Gone.
Right.
And now,
Back.
not just back, we've got, get this, dire wolf pups.
It's pretty incredible.
Romulus and Remus.
And their sister.
And their sister,
Yeah.
Khaleesi.
Mm-hmm.
And these aren't like little tiny pups either.
Oh, no.
We're talking almost 4 feet long.
Already.
At
6 months old.
6 months old.
80 pounds.
With the potential to, reach 6 feet long.
Oh, wow.
And weigh up to 150 pounds.
Yeah.
Massive animals.
Massive. And here's the thing. They don't act like your typical, domestic puppy.
Right. You think puppy, you think like all over you, wanting to cuddle.
Yeah.
Playful.
Yeah.
These pups, they keep their distance.
Really?
Yeah. It's like this inherent wildness is still there.
Even though they're being raised, obviously, in this very controlled environment.
Exactly. They haven't been out in the wild figuring things out on their own.
Right. But that instinct, it's fascinating to see, really highlights that these are not just big dogs.
No, not at all.
They are something truly unique.
So we're diving into this whole bringing back extinct creatures thing.
Which, you hear about it, but seeing it actually happen.
Yeah. It's like science fiction.
It's mind-blowing. And the science behind it, equally mind-blowing.
Absolutely. And all this thanks to some incredible work being done at Colossal Biosciences.
Yeah, they've been making waves in the scientific community.
Huge waves. There was a really great article in Time recently. That we're going to be
really digging into today.
So for everyone listening, think of this deep dive as your cheat sheet.
Your shortcut to understanding this huge scientific development.
Yeah. Because we're going to, break down the science, talk about genetic engineering, how they used information from ancient DNA. And we're also going to look at the bigger picture.
The implications.
Yeah. What does this mean for conservation?
For the future of, a lot of things, really. Yeah. And it's important to remember this isn't just about the dire wolf.
Right. This is just one piece of what Colossal Bioscience is doing.
One fascinating piece, but yet their vision is much broader.
So Colossal Biosciences, just to set the stage, founded in 2021.
So it's relatively new.
Yeah, really new.
Yeah.
But they already have 130 scientists working for them.
And they're all focused on this mission of de-extinction.
Which is wow. Ambitious is an understatement.
Absolutely.
But the fact that they've managed to, bring these dire wolf pups into the world.
That's a pretty solid demonstration of their capabilities.
Yeah, that's not just finding a frozen dire wolf and, thawing it out.
This is next level.
So walk us through this.
Okay, so first, they had to figure out the dire wolf's genome.
Its genetic code.
Exactly. They had to piece it together like a puzzle, and they did that using ancient remains.
Okay, like fossils.
Kind of, but even more specific. They used a 13,000-year-old tooth found in Ohio.
A tooth?
A tooth, and a 72,000-year-old ear bone.
Wow.
From Idaho. Both of these were from museum collections.
So they had the blueprint, basically.
The information, yeah.
From the ancient DNA.
Right. But then comes the real magic. How do you go from that information to living, breathing, dire wolf pups?
That's what I want to know.
Well, it started with the genetic code of the common gray wolf, the wolves we see today.
Okay.
And then they made some very specific edits. Tiny changes to the code, just 20 edits.
Wait, 20?
Yeah.
Only 20?
To 14 specific genes.
To bring back a whole species?
Yeah, to align the gray wolf genome with what they knew the dire wolf genome was.
That's incredible. It's like a tiny tweak can make such a huge difference.
That's the thing, right? It makes you think about the power held within our genes.
Yeah, and it's important to note here, they didn't actually splice in any ancient dire wolf DNA.
No direct splicing. It was all about those precise edits to the gray wolf code.
Okay, so those 20 edits, they resulted in some pretty obvious changes.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We can see it in the pups.
Romulus and Remus, for instance, they have these striking white coats.
Which, visually, it's just stunning.
Yeah. And they're bigger, they've got more powerful shoulders, whiter head.
And those teeth.
Oh, the teeth. Much bigger. And the jaws.
The legs, too. More muscular. It's all about power and strength.
Makes sense for an apex predator.
Absolutely. And then there are the vocalizations. They have this distinct howl and whine.
Which nobody's heard that sound in 10,000 years.
It's a sound from the past brought back to life.
It's really something.
And, the method they used for all this is also quite cutting edge. It's not your typical cloning, like Dolly the sheep.
Right. They didn't use tissue samples or anything.
They used something called endothelial progenitor cells, EPCs for short.
EPCs, okay.
And they got these from gray wolf blood.
From blood?
Yeah, so it's much less invasive than doing a tissue biopsy.
So what are these EPCs?
They're basically like starter cells. They have the potential to develop into various tissues.
Oh, okay.
So they took these EPCs, rewrote those 14 key genes, and then they put this edited nucleus into an egg cell.
So they're basically replacing the egg cell's original nucleus with this edited one.
Exactly. And they created 45 of these engineered ova, implanted them into 2 surrogate mothers, hound mixes.
Hound mixes. Okay. I guess that makes sense size-wise.
Yeah, got to think about the potential size of the pups. And both surrogates got pregnant.
That's amazing.
Which, with cloning, is a huge deal. There's a high risk of failure.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Miscarriages, stillbirth, all sorts of complications.
But not with Romulus and Remus?
Nope. Romulus and Remus were born in October 2024. And then they did it again with Khaleesi, born in January of this year.
Healthy births.
Perfectly healthy. They had planned C-sections to minimize any complications.
No, that's smart.
And then one of the surrogates, she actually started fostering the pups.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she had like the strongest maternal instincts.
It's awesome.
But then they actually had to switch to bottle feeding.
Really? Why?
She was getting a little too attached.
Too attentive.
Yeah, to the point where it could have been a problem for the pup's development.
Oh, wow.
So bottle feeding it was, wean at 8 weeks, and now they live on this huge 2,000-acre ecological preserve.
2,000 acres. Wow.
Yeah, the exact location is kept secret, though.
For their protection.
Of course.
Yeah, that makes sense.
These are valuable animals.
Yeah.
And there's a lot we still need to learn from them.
So what's it like for them there?
Well, their diet is, very carefully planned.
What do they eat?
Beef, horse meat, deer meat, liver, offal. All the good stuff.
Wow, a carnivore's dream.
And puppy chow, too, to make sure they get all the nutrients they need.
Oh, right, of course.
Initially, everything was pureed, mimicking how a mother wolf would feed her pups.
Right, but now?
Whole meat. So they're practicing tearing and consuming it, building those jaw muscles.
So like raw meat.
Pretty much, yeah.
As close to natural as they can get it.
And are they?
Yeah.
Have they been observed hunting?
Not yet, which is interesting.
Interesting how?
Well, it suggests that maybe those instincts haven't fully kicked in yet.
Oh, right.
Or maybe the controlled environment is playing a role. We're still figuring it out.
There's so much we still don't know.
That's the beauty of it. It's uncharted territory.
Speaking of uncharted territory, there was this amazing story about a vet tech who was singing to the pups from The Little Mermaid. And when she hit these certain high and low notes, Romulus and Remus, they started howling.
I heard about that. Incredible, right?
Potentially the first time that sound, that specific dire wolf howl, has been heard on Earth in 10,000 years.
Makes the hairs on your arms stand up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it's not just a cool sound. It tells us something about those genetic edits.
Like they've unlocked these deep, innate behaviors in these pups. They're not just physical changes. It's in their very being.
So dire wolves are back, kind of.
In a very limited way, yeah. But this is just the beginning, right?
Right, because Colossal has bigger plans. Much bigger.
They want to bring back, several other extinct species.
So what's on their list?
The woolly mammoth, for one.
The mammoth.
The dodo bird. And the thylacine?
The what?
The thylacine. It's also known as the Tasmanian tiger.
Oh, right.
They all present their own unique challenges, but Colossal seems determined.
And they've already had some success, haven't they?
You're thinking of the woolly mouse.
The woolly mouse, too.
A fascinating little creature. Basically, a mouse with mammoth DNA.
So, like, a hybrid.
Kinda, yeah. They gave it a golden coat and that accelerated fat metabolism that mammoths had.
It sounds like something out of, a sci-fi movie.
It does, doesn't it?
But Colossal says this isn't just about, bringing back extinct animals for the sake of it.
They argue it could actually help prevent the extinction of species that are alive today.
How so?
They're basically saying that by learning how to make extinct animals more resilient through genetic engineering, They can apply those same techniques to endangered species,
Oh, okay.
like figuring out what genes make mammoths cold tolerant could help elephants adapt to climate change.
That's a really interesting point.
And their work on the thylacine could benefit the endangered quoll.
And the dire wolf.
Could help with the red wolf, which is critically endangered.
So it's like research and development for conservation.
Exactly. Cutting-edge genetic tools to help save species.
And I know Beth Shapiro, Colossal's lead scientist.
Yeah.
She's pretty vocal about this.
She's very passionate about it. She says that humans are essentially an evolutionary force.
Which, I mean, we are, right?
We've changed the planet in so many ways, and she argues that we have a moral responsibility to try and reverse some of the damage we've done.
Yeah, I can see that.
Especially when you consider that we're facing, potentially losing 30% of Earth's genetic diversity by 2050.
That's a scary thought.
It is. So Shapiro and Colossal's CEO, Ben Lamb, they see genetic engineering as a way to fight back against that loss.
So it's not just about, we can do this. It's about, we should do this.
Yeah, it's presented as a moral imperative.
But obviously there are concerns.
Well, absolutely. Lots of them.
Like what?
Well, unintended consequences, for one. We've messed with ecosystems before, introducing species that then became invasive.
Right.
Exotic pets becoming pests, cane toads wiping out native wildlife, even genetically modified mosquitoes, which we're still trying to figure out the full impact of.
And cloning itself isn't perfect, is it?
No, it's not. We all remember Dolly the sheep, but there have been other cloned animals that have had health problems, and it can be very tough on the surrogate mothers.
What kind of risks?
Death, severe side effects, miscarriages. It's a demanding process.
And even if the cloning works, there's still the genetic engineering itself.
Yeah, that's incredibly complex. You can't just change one gene and expect one specific outcome. Because of something called pleiotropy. Basically, one gene can affect multiple traits.
Oh.
So even if you target one specific characteristic, you might accidentally trigger other changes, and those might not be good.
Right, they might not even be compatible with the animal's survival.
Exactly, which is why this research has to be so careful and thorough.
And when we're talking specifically about dire wolves, there's another big question.
Their long-term survival.
Yeah, even if they breed successfully, can they actually thrive in today's world? I mean, they went extinct for a reason, right?
Rick McIntyre, who's a retired wolf researcher, he raises a good point. He says dire wolves were very specialized hunters.
Specialized in what way?
They mainly preyed on Ice Age megafauna. Mammoths, giant bison, those huge creatures.
Those are all gone.
Exactly, so that food source is gone. Gray wolves, on the other hand, they're more adaptable. They can hunt a wider variety of prey.
So dire wolves might not have what it takes to hunt what's available today.
That's the question, isn't it?
And the woolly mammoths, that's a whole other set of challenges. It's not just the gestation period.
Which, for elephants, is 22 months.
Wow.
But it's more than that. Elephants are incredibly intelligent, social animals. They live in these complex herds, form strong bonds, they travel long distances.
Yeah, and they need that, right?
It's crucial to their well-being. So if you have a small group of mammoths in a confined space,
they're not going to be living a natural life.
Exactly. And Colossal has admitted that their first mammoths will be elephant surrogates with mammoth DNA.
So hybrids.
Essentially, yeah. Beth Shapiro argues that if they have the key mammoth traits and can reproduce, then they're functionally mammoth.
But it's still...
Yeah.
It's not exactly the same, is it?
It really makes you think about what de-extinction really means. Are we aiming for an exact replica or something that just has the essence of the extinct species?
It's a big philosophical question.
It is.
But in the meantime, Colossal isn't just focused on these big de-extinction projects.
No, they're also doing more traditional conservation work.
Right, like with the red wolf.
Exactly. They're running a parallel project to try and save the red wolf.
Which is really in trouble, right?
Yeah, critically endangered. Used to be all over the southeastern U.S., but habitat loss and human activity have decimated their numbers.
And the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, they've had a captive breeding program for years, haven't they?
Decades, yeah. But there are still fewer than 20 red wolves in the wild.
Wow. Why so few?
Poaching, car strikes. It's a tough life out there for a red wolf.
And with such a small population, there's the problem of genetic bottleneck.
Huge problem. When you have so few individuals, there's less genetic diversity.
Which makes them more vulnerable to disease, right?
Exactly. And less able to adapt to changes in their environment.
So what's Colossal doing about this?
Well, they've cloned 4 red wolves so far. The idea is to introduce new genetic material into the existing population.
And this is where the ghost alleles come in. What are those?
Okay, so researchers found that some canids along the coast of Louisiana and Texas,
Canids meaning?
dogs, wolves, that family,
Okay.
they carried red wolf gene variations in their DNA, but those variations, these ghost alleles, they weren't expressed.
So, like, hidden genes.
Exactly. And Colossal used this natural genetic reservoir to create what they're calling the first ghost wolf.
A ghost wolf.
It's a cloned red wolf that carries these hidden genetic variations. The goal is to breed these ghost wolves with the existing red wolf population.
To increase genetic diversity.
Exactly.
So it's like finding a hidden strength within the species itself.
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah, that's amazing.
And these cloned red wolves, they're also living on that 2,000-acre preserve.
So they're not out in the wild yet.
Not yet. They're still studying them, but there are talks with North Carolina about rewilding.
So these de-extinction technologies, they're not just about bringing back mammoths and dire wolves.
It's about saving species that are struggling right now.
Yeah, which is, I mean, that's huge.
It really highlights the potential impact of this work.
And Colossal, they're branching out in other ways, too.
Yeah, they're showing that their tech has applications beyond just animals.
Like what?
They have a spin-off company called Breaking, which is working on breaking down plastic waste using, like, engineered microbes and enzymes.
That's awesome.
And another one called FormBio, which is developing AI and computational biology platforms for drug development.
Wow. So the same tech that's bringing back mammoths could also help solve the plastic problem and develop new medicines.
It's all about that core technology, that ability to manipulate and understand the building blocks of life.
And, you know, while Colossal is like the big name in all this, they're not the only ones working on conservation.
Oh, no. There are other groups out there doing great work. Revive and Restore, Rewilding Europe.
But they're smaller, right?
Yeah, they don't have the same funding or resources as Colossal. Ben Lamb, Colossal's CEO, actually sees them more as partners, all working towards the same goal.
Okay, so back to Romulus and Remus for a minute. How are they doing?
They seem to be thriving. They're doing all the typical wolf stuff, running around, playing, gnawing on bark.
And they still keep their distance from humans.
Yeah, they're pretty cautious, but they're also developing distinct personalities. Remus is actually becoming more outgoing than Romulus.
Really?
Yeah, he's more confident, more curious. It's fascinating to watch them grow and change.
And what about their future? Could they breed?
Colossal has the ability to monitor Khaleesi's reproductive cycles, and they could use contraception if they need to.
So they're controlling things for now.
Yeah, until they understand more about the long-term health and genetic traits of these dire wolves.
Makes sense. And there was that story about the MHA Nation tribes in North Dakota, right?
Yeah, they expressed interest in potentially hosting dire wolves on their lands.
That's a really interesting idea.
It's a potential way for these animals to return to part of their historical range, and it brings indigenous communities into the conservation conversation, which is really important.
It's like coming full circle, in a way.
It is. It's a story that's still being written.
So, wow. We've covered a lot.
We have. From extinct wolves to ghost alleles to the future of conservation.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And kind of mind-blowing, honestly.
It is, isn't it? It makes you realize how fast this field is moving. What seemed like science fiction just a few years ago is now becoming a reality.
Yeah. So for everyone listening, the key takeaways here, I mean, first of all, they brought back the dire wolf.
Using some seriously advanced genetic engineering.
That's the big headline. But Colossal isn't just focused on de-extinction.
They're also trying to prevent the extinction of species that are alive today.
And there are obviously a lot of, like, scientific and practical challenges involved.
Oh, absolutely. But the potential is huge.
Yeah, it could fundamentally change how we interact with the natural world.
It really could. And it raises some big questions.
Like what?
Like, as we gain this power to manipulate life, to bring back the extinct, what's our responsibility? Where do we draw the line? How do we ensure that we're using this technology for good?
Big questions. And I think that's a perfect place to leave it. This deep dive has really just scratched the surface of this incredible story. We highly recommend checking out the Time article we mentioned and, do your own research. This is a topic that deserves a lot of thought and consideration.
It does. It's not just about science. It's about ethics, about philosophy, about the future of our planet. It's about all of us.